It's something I've seen time and time again in my clinical practice and in real life. 99% of men overlook something so simple, yet so powerful, that it often makes the difference between a fleeting moment and a lasting connection. And I know that sounds extreme, but stay with me for a second. How many times have you met or seen a man who seems to have it all? He's confident, successful, attractive, and yet he can't seem to build deep, emotionally satisfying relationships with women. He may attract attention, sure, but what happens after that? The connection just doesn't stick. Why is that? The truth is, real connection isn't built on pickup lines, flashy lifestyles, or even superficial charm. It's built on something quieter, something more intuitive. Today I'm going to share with you 7 powerful, lesser-known secrets that women deeply crave, truths they rarely verbalize, often because they're subconscious. But when a man taps into these insights, everything shifts. Because this isn't about tricks or games, it's about emotional presence, psychological attunement, and genuine intention. And once you understand these subtle dynamics, you begin to stand out, not because you're trying harder, but because you're showing up in a way most men never even think about. So let's begin with secret number 1. The power of touch before intimacy. Now, imagine this: you're on a date. Things are going smoothly. She's smiling, engaged. There's chemistry. But afterward, silence. She ghosts, or the energy fades. It's confusing. You didn't say anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. But something was missing. And that something is often overlooked by men who are thinking only in terms of what to say, instead of what to convey. Here's the thing. Women, in general, experience connection not just through shared interests or even attraction, but through safety and presence. One of the most powerful tools you have when used respectfully is touch. Not sexual, not performative, intentional, grounded touch. A warm hand on her back as you guide her through a door. A gentle, non-sexual touch that simply says, "You're safe here. I see you. You can relax." That touch, offered without expectation, creates a physiological response. Her body feels it before her mind even processes it. And that's key. But here's the catch. The energy behind the touch matters more than the touch itself. If you're touching her because you want something, she'll feel it. If you're touching her because you're present, fully grounded in the moment, then it builds connection. So many men skip this. They think presence means performance. But presence is actually about stillness, awareness, respectful attention. That's what women are attuned to. And the men who understand this, they stand out not because they do more, but because they're intentional in the way they show up. Which leads me to secret number 2, the art of flirting with confidence and respect. Flirting isn't about teasing or pushing boundaries. It's about emotional energy. The best kind of flirting doesn't create pressure, it creates space. A space where a woman can feel both seen and safe. Confidence here isn't loud, it's self-assured. It's knowing who you are and not needing to dominate the moment to prove it. The most attractive men flirt not to get something, but to give a feeling of lightness, curiosity, playful attention. Respectful flirting is nuanced. It's not sexual escalation disguised as charm. It's sincere engagement with her uniqueness, her energy, her story. When a man can be confidently curious without agenda, that's when a woman's nervous system relaxes. And relaxed women connect deeply, because we're wired, biologically, to open up when we feel emotionally safe. Secret number 3 is listening that goes deeper than words. Most men hear, very few actually listen. Women know the difference instantly. Real listening isn't about solving problems or waiting for your turn to talk. It's about holding space. It's about staying with her words, especially when they're subtle. A woman might say something small, like it was a tough day. The average man says, yeah, work is hard. The man who creates lasting connection says, what happened? Want to tell me about it? And then he pauses, waits, lets her unfold. Because when a woman feels that kind of attention without pressure to be entertaining, without judgment, that's when she begins to trust. And trust is where intimacy grows. Now, secret number 4. Emotional regulation is deeply attractive. Let's be honest. The world is stressful. Life is unpredictable. And nothing makes a woman feel safer than a man who can stay grounded, even when things feel chaotic. Emotional regulation doesn't mean being stoic or disconnected. It means knowing your triggers, taking responsibility for your reactions, and staying present even when things get uncomfortable. A man who can self-regulate shows emotional maturity, and that's incredibly sexy. Because women know, consciously or not, that this man won't erupt, won't collapse, won't make her carry his emotional weight. He's solid, and that creates the space for her to soften, to trust, to show up fully herself. Secret number 5 is affection without agenda. Affection is more than physical. It's about warmth, generosity, kindness that expects nothing in return. When you compliment her, is it because you mean it, or because you want something from her? She knows. She always knows. The men who create deep bonds give affection freely because it's part of who they are. They notice small things. They express appreciation, and they do it without calculating what it will get them. That's powerful. That's rare. Secret number 6. Protect her energy, not just her body. We talk a lot about protecting women physically. And yes, that matters. But emotional safety is just as important. That means you're aware of her energy. You notice when she's tired, overstimulated, or drained. You support her boundaries, even the unspoken ones. You don't push her to explain why she feels off. You just stay attuned. When a woman feels that kind of protection, not control, but care, her nervous system responds. She lets down her guard. She lets you in. And now, secret number 7, the most powerful of all. Be who you say you are. Authenticity isn't a tactic. It's a way of being. So many men try to become what they think women want. But real attraction, deep connection, comes when a man stands in his truth. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be real. Speak from your core. Align your actions with your words. And when you're uncertain, say so. When you're afraid, don't hide it, own it. Vulnerability, when it's rooted in strength, is magnetic because it signals emotional courage. And emotional courage is what women crave at the deepest level. So there it is. 7 powerful truths. Not pickup lines, not strategies, but deep, human connection points that most men miss entirely. And if you've stayed with me this far, it tells me something important. You're ready to be in that top 1%, not by doing more, but by doing less with more intention. You don't need to chase. You don't need to impress. You just need to show up real, grounded, present, because when you do, you don't just attract attention. You create resonance. And that kind of energy, it's unforgettable. This is the part where most men either go too far or hold back completely. Flirting, when done right, isn't about being overly smooth or cracking rehearsed jokes. It's not about performance. It's about presence, playful, respectful, grounded presence. And that's something women are deeply attuned to, even if they don't always say it out loud. Real flirting lives in the energy between two people, not the lines spoken. It's subtle, it's attuned, and above all, it's authentic. Women can feel the difference immediately between a man who's connected to the moment versus a man who's trying to impress. Confidence isn't loud. It's calm. It's the steady eye contact, the soft smile, the man who asks meaningful questions without needing anything in return. That's the energy that pulls a woman in because it feels safe, playful, and intriguing all at once. When your flirting comes from genuine interest instead of ego, everything changes. You're not trying to get her attention, you're sharing energy. And that shift, that mindset, is magnetic. Most men misunderstand flirting. They either overdo it, becoming pushy or needy, or they shy away from it entirely, afraid to take a risk. But women don't want performative flirting. They want to feel your curiosity. They want to feel your energy. The men who master this create an emotional spark that feels light but electric. Flirting isn't about showing off. It's about a shared rhythm, a playful exchange. Think of it like a dance you lead. She follows, and neither of you should feel forced. The most attractive kind of flirting is light teasing, not cruel or sarcastic, but warm and engaging. For example, let's say she tells you she loves Thai food. You could respond with something like, "Really? That's the best you've got. Clearly, you've never had my cooking." It's fun, playful, and subtly confident. It creates tension, not pressure, and allows the energy to build naturally. But here's what matters most. Don't flirt to win her over. Flirt because you're enjoying the moment, because you're genuinely engaged. That's what Stoic confidence looks like. A high-value man doesn't seek validation, he simply expresses himself because it feels good to connect. Your energy, your body language, your silence, all of it communicates more than clever words ever could. A well-timed pause, a confident smirk, a playful glance. These are the cues that women tune into. And when your flirting comes from emotional grounding instead of neediness, she feels safe enough to open up, to engage, to relax. So ask yourself honestly, are you flirting to impress her? Or are you flirting because you're genuinely enjoying the moment? That one mindset shift can change everything. When you approach women with presence, curiosity, and authenticity, attraction starts to work in your favor effortlessly. Which brings us to secret number 3, the subtle power of touching her hair. Now, this is a gesture that most men completely overlook, but it holds so much emotional weight when done correctly. Touching her hair, in the right moment, can create a powerful subconscious connection. But let me be clear, timing and context are everything. Done wrong, it can feel awkward, intrusive, or even aggressive. But done with presence, care, and attunement, it says more than words ever could. Why does this matter so much? Because the scalp is one of the most sensitive areas on the body. It's filled with nerve endings that are directly tied to emotional and even sexual responses. A gentle stroke or brush of her hair can create a moment that feels incredibly intimate. Even if there's nothing overtly sexual happening, it's a gesture that says, "I see you. I'm attuned to you. I care about how you feel." But here's the nuance. You don't do it to get a reaction. You do it because the moment invites it, because there's already connection, because your energy is grounded and respectful. Women crave that kind of attunement. They want to feel chosen but not possessed, seen but not analyzed. When a man knows how to read a moment and respond with gentle, confident touch, whether it's her hand, her back, or yes, her hair, it bypasses logic and speaks straight to the nervous system. And that's the real secret here. Attraction is physiological, emotional, relational. It's not a transaction. When your presence makes a woman feel more connected to herself, she wants to be around you not because of what you said or did, but because of how she feels in your energy. You're not performing. You're not playing games. You're simply there, present, grounded, and attuned. And that, more than anything else, is what separates the men who struggle from the men who are unforgettable. So if you've been resonating with these ideas, let me say this. The rest of the secrets go even deeper into the psychology of safety, emotional intimacy, and why certain moments build lifelong bonds while others fade within hours. If you want me to keep building this series, just let me know. Because I believe truly that when men take the time to understand these deeper emotional layers, they don't just become more attractive, they become more powerful, more magnetic, not just to women but to everyone they meet. These are the men who walk through life with confidence, clarity, and compassion. The men who don't chase but attract, not by doing more, but by being more present, more intentional, more emotionally aware. And that is what makes you part of the rare 1%. A gentle touch on her hair when done right isn't just about physical sensation. It's about emotional energy. It communicates intimacy, trust, attention, and presence. But here's what most men get wrong. They rush it. They reach for her hair without any emotional context, without the trust or warmth that makes that moment meaningful. And when that happens, it breaks the vibe. Touching her hair isn't something you do randomly or mechanically. It's not a move, it's a moment. It's about creating connection, not performing an action. Picture this. You're sitting together. Maybe it's the end of a long day. You're sharing something real. The conversation is flowing. There's a soft stillness between words. She leans in. Her smile is relaxed. There's a strand of hair falling across her face, and in that exact moment, you gently brush it away. Slowly, calmly, confidently. That action, done with presence, says everything without saying a word. It tells her, I'm here with you. I'm not thinking about what's next. I'm not trying to take anything. I'm simply attuned to you. But remember, this only works when she feels emotionally safe with you. If you haven't built trust, if the connection isn't there yet, that same gesture can feel invasive or awkward. This is where true awareness comes in. You have to be present enough to feel when the moment is right. If she leans in, if she maintains eye contact, if her body relaxes into yours, those are your green lights. And if they're not there, you wait. You hold your presence. You stay grounded, because forced connection is no connection at all. From a Stoic perspective, this kind of stillness, this ability to respond instead of react, is power. You're not trying to manufacture a moment. You're allowing one to unfold. And that difference is everything. It's the man who's tuned in not just to what he wants, but to what she feels, that builds deep, lasting connection. Now, let's shift to something seemingly unrelated, but energetically connected. Secret number 4. The psychology of a well-kept beard. In ancient cultures, warriors and leaders wore beards not just as style but as symbols. A beard stood for resilience, leadership, and masculine maturity. It said, I can protect. I can provide. I carry wisdom. And even today, on a primal level, women still feel that signal. A well-groomed beard communicates something powerful. It says, I take care of myself. I respect how I show up. I'm intentional. And that alone can shift how you're perceived, not because of vanity, but because it reflects inner discipline. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Your outer self often mirrors your inner world. A clean, shaped beard isn't just a grooming habit, it's a visual cue of your self-respect, your patience, and your emotional regulation. Now, this doesn't mean every man should grow a beard. Not at all. But if you can and you maintain it, it becomes a quiet, masculine symbol, a kind of natural armor that communicates presence, maturity, and grounded strength. There's also a biological factor here. Contrast. A beard frames the face, sharpens the jawline, and deepens expressions. This creates a compelling blend of ruggedness and refinement, which many women find deeply attractive. So no, the beard itself doesn't make you attractive, but the message it sends that you are intentional, mature, and grounded does. And that brings us full circle to the final piece: how to apply these secrets with effortless confidence. At this point, you've unlocked 7 powerful, often overlooked insights that deeply affect how women feel in your presence. And the beauty is they're not about chasing or performing. They're about subtle shifts, grounded awareness, emotional intelligence. So let's briefly recap. The power of touch before intimacy. Respectful, intentional touch can create connection deeper than any conversation. When done from a place of presence, the art of flirting with confidence and respect, playful, attuned energy, not performance, makes you magnetic. Confidence is quiet. Flirting is sharing energy, not seeking validation. The subtle power of touching her hair, a deeply intimate gesture when timed with emotional awareness, not rushed, not forced, but allowed. The psychology of a well-kept beard, a symbol of masculine discipline and maturity. It communicates care, contrast, and quiet strength when maintained intentionally. And we're just getting started, because secrets 5, 6, and 7 go even deeper into how women form bonds, how emotional safety, consistency, and vulnerability actually drive attraction far more than any surface tactic ever could. If this is resonating with you, if you're starting to feel the power in showing up differently, not louder, then make sure you stay tuned. Because the men who learn these inner skills, they don't just attract women, they attract trust, respect, real, meaningful connection, not just in dating, but in life. You're not here to become someone else. You're here to uncover who you truly are and let that version of you lead with quiet confidence. That's what makes you unforgettable. Let's take a moment to bring everything together, because what we've been talking about isn't just attraction, it's emotional intelligence, confidence, and embodiment. The truth is, most men miss the mark not because they're bad people, but because they focus on the surface instead of the signal. So let's anchor these lessons. Touch before intimacy builds emotional connection. Flirting with confidence and respect makes you stand out without seeking approval. Touching her hair at the right moment with presence creates instant chemistry. A subtle hand on her back communicates grounded leadership and protection. Being her protector in small, unnoticed ways makes her feel secure, even if she doesn't consciously know why. Speaking of dreams taps into depth, mystery, and subconscious connection. And a well-groomed beard that quietly taps into primal instincts of strength, masculinity, and maturity. Now here's the most important part. Don't force any of this. You don't need to treat these like boxes to check or lines to say. That's performance. That's pressure. Instead, live it. Embody it. Let these principles become who you are, not just what you do. Because the most attractive man in any room is the one who doesn't need to be. He's not chasing. He's not proving. He's not posturing. He simply is. Grounded, calm, intentional. He creates pull, not through effort but through presence. His energy speaks before his words ever do so. If you're ready to step out of the 99%, the men who constantly guess, chase, or overthink, and into the rare group of men who truly understand what makes attraction last, then start applying these secrets, one moment at a time, with self-awareness, not self-consciousness. Because attraction isn't built like a strategy. It's built like a rhythm. It's not the checklist. It's the feeling, the energy, the experience of being with you. When you're walking beside her, rest your hand lightly on her back, not to impress, but because it feels right. If she's vulnerable and open with you, touch her hair gently, not to get a reaction, but to acknowledge the trust in that moment. If you sense emotional openness, share something dreamlike, symbolic, a vision, a story, a reflection, not to manipulate, but to invite intrigue. The less you try to perform, the more she feels you. Because these aren't tricks, these are truths. They don't just make you more desirable, they make you a better man. And this brings us to something often overlooked but incredibly impactful. Secret number 4. The subtle power of a hand on her back. This might seem small, even forgettable, but a confident, intentional touch on a woman's lower back, especially in public, can send a deep subconscious signal. It says, "I'm here. I'm leading. You're safe." It's not possessive. It's not aggressive. It's attuned. It communicates direction, care, presence. It shows that you're aware of her without making her feel controlled. Women feel that. You're saying, without words, "You're with me. I've got you." And that triggers a powerful emotional response. It taps into ancient instincts of trust and safety. Not because you dominate, but because you protect. But again, it only works when it's done with grounded presence. If you're reaching out nervously, or doing it just to look cool, it falls flat. But when you're leading her through a crowd, guiding her to a seat, or simply walking beside her with calm awareness, that small gesture becomes magnetic. And that leads us to something deeper. These aren't just attraction cues. These are principles of character. When you practice presence, restraint, and emotional leadership, not just with women, but with yourself, you become the kind of man women feel drawn to. Because women are naturally pulled toward men with purpose. Men who lead without ego. Men who listen without needing to be heard. Men who act without seeking validation. That's where Stoicism becomes your edge. A Stoic man doesn't chase emotions, he feels them without being ruled by them. He doesn't touch out of impulse, he touches when the moment invites it. He doesn't speak to be heard, he speaks because there's meaning to share. That's rare, and that's why it's unforgettable. So here's the real question. Will you be like the 99% of men who miss these cues? Who act before they listen, chase before they connect, and hope instead of know? Or will you be among the 1%, the men who understand, who embody, who lead with emotional clarity and grounded energy? Because the man who lives these truths doesn't need a script. He doesn't need permission. He simply becomes the kind of man who naturally attracts depth, connection, and intimacy. If this resonated with you, if you feel that shift happening inside even now, then I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know which secret hit hardest. And if you're serious about leveling up, not just in dating, but in life, then hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because this is just the beginning. We're diving deeper in every video, and what's coming next will change how you see attraction, connection, and masculinity forever. Stay grounded, stay clear, and start becoming the man you were always meant to be. Because real attraction doesn't chase, it invites. Whether you're guiding her through a crowd or simply walking side by side, this single gesture, barely noticeable to others, can speak volumes. It's not dramatic, it's not flashy, but to her, it's unforgettable, because what it communicates is powerful. Leadership, confidence, and most importantly, safety. Here's the truth. Women don't need grand, theatrical gestures to feel secure. In fact, they often don't respond to those at all. What they respond to, often beneath the level of conscious awareness, are the subtle cues. The kind that say, "I see you. I've got you. You don't have to worry right now." And that's exactly what this move does. When you place your hand lightly on her lower back, not forcefully, not awkwardly, just briefly and naturally, it tells her, "You're safe. I'm grounded. I'm present." But here's where most men miss the mark. They either hesitate too much, making the moment feel uncertain, or they go too far and make it about control or dominance. But like everything else in real connection, the power is in the balance. This gesture is not about control. It's about presence. It's about being the kind of man who doesn't need to perform, who doesn't need to show off, because his stillness speaks louder than effort. So picture this. You're walking together toward a restaurant. The sidewalk is busy. You step slightly ahead to open the door. And in that moment, your hand rests gently on her back, brief, steady, smooth, guiding her without breaking stride. That's it. It's calm. It's fluid. It's natural. And that is what makes it powerful. From a Stoic perspective, this moment is about self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." A Stoic man doesn't act for approval. He doesn't seek recognition. He acts because it's in his nature to lead with clarity and integrity. And when you move like that, quietly, confidently, with total awareness, it changes how she feels around you. She senses that you're not guessing, you're not reacting, you're guiding. And that's the kind of presence that makes her trust you. In a world filled with men who are either too passive or too controlling, mastering this one small physical expression sets you apart instantly. Because what it shows her is this: you know how to hold both strength and sensitivity. And that's rare. And it's deeply attractive. Secret 5. Being her protector in small, intentional ways. No, let's talk about something deeper, what it truly means to be a protector. Not in the exaggerated Hollywood action hero sense. Not the guy who shows up to save the day in some big dramatic way. Because here's the truth. Women don't need rescuing. Women today are strong. They're independent. They're running businesses, raising families, building lives. They can handle almost anything that comes their way. But here's the secret. Even the strongest women, especially the strongest women, are drawn to men who naturally, quietly, show up. Being a protector doesn't mean taking over, it means being aware. It means noticing the small things, like standing on the side closest to traffic when you walk together, or offering your jacket when it's cold, not because she asked, but because you saw the goosebumps and felt the breeze. Or recognizing when she's feeling off in a social setting and gently asking, "You good?" These aren't grand gestures. These are subtle, intentional actions that tell her, "I've got this. You don't have to carry everything." This is not about dominance. This is about reliability. And reliability is deeply attractive because it creates a sense of emotional and physical safety. And when a woman feels safe emotionally, physically, energetically, she can relax, she can soften, she can be fully in her feminine energy. She doesn't need to be on guard. She doesn't need to lead the dynamic. She can trust the space you're holding. And when you give her that, it's everything. It's not about saving her. It's about making sure she never feels like she has to ask. It's about noticing what others miss. It's about being attuned. This kind of awareness activates something ancient, not submission, but trust. Because when she feels that quiet strength in you, when she sees you hold space not with your words but with your presence, she knows this man is different. And in that moment, you've stepped into a level of connection most men never even touch. Secret 6. The power of dreams and emotional mystery. Now let's talk about something most men would never think of, but that women feel immediately when it's done right. Emotional mystery and the power of inviting her into your inner world. See, most men think that opening up emotionally means spilling everything, oversharing, talking too much, trying to get close too quickly. But real emotional connection doesn't come from flooding her with information. It comes from giving her glimpses into your world strategically, authentically, and with intention. That's where the power of dreams comes in. When you casually mention a dream, something surreal, strange, or symbolic, you're doing something unexpected. You're inviting her into your subconscious, into the part of you that's usually hidden, unguarded, and deeply human. You might say something simple like, "Had this weird dream last night. We were on a beach, but the sky was purple. No idea what it means, but it felt real." That's it. Just a breadcrumb, a mystery, something open-ended. And in that moment, her mind activates. She's intrigued. She wants to know more, not because you're trying to impress her, but because you're revealing just enough of your inner depth to stir her imagination. Because here's the secret: women connect through emotional resonance and narrative. When you share something dreamlike, symbolic, or emotionally layered, you bypass the surface and speak directly to her intuition. You awaken the part of her that craves connection beyond logic, beyond small talk. And here's where emotional mastery kicks in. You don't explain the dream. You don't turn it into a therapy session. You let it sit. You allow her to draw her own conclusions. And the more you do this, creating space for subtle mystery, the more she leans in. Because you're not telling her who you are. You're inviting her to feel it. This taps directly into the feminine psyche. Because for a woman to feel true attraction, she needs to sense that there's more beneath the surface, that your emotional world has depth, layers, meaning, not chaos, not volatility, but grounded mystery. It's not about being hard to read. It's about being impossible to label. And that distinction changes everything from a Stoic lens. This is emotional restraint at its highest level. You don't overshare because you're seeking closeness. You share just enough to create emotional gravity so that what you don't say speaks louder than what you do. That's the difference between noise and depth, between attention and attraction. When a man can create that kind of emotional space, that kind of quiet mystery, he's not just interesting, he becomes unforgettable. Secret 6. The psychological effect of mentioning a dream about her. This next one is subtle, but powerful. Most men never think to use it, but when done right, it creates an emotional connection that lingers in a woman's mind far longer than any compliment ever could. It's the power of dreams. Specifically, mentioning that you had a dream about her. Now stay with me. This isn't manipulation or game playing. It's about tapping into something real and personal, because a dream feels unplanned, subconscious, intimate without being overt. Imagine you're having a casual conversation, and at some point, you drop this line. "You know, I had the weirdest dream about you last night." Then pause. Don't rush the explanation. Let her curiosity kick in. 9 times out of 10, she'll lean in and say, "Wait, really? What was it about?" Here's the key. You don't need a deep romantic story. Keep it light, natural, and a bit playful. Something like, I don't remember the whole thing, but we were just sitting in this random cafe talking about something deep. It felt nice. What this does is subtle but profound. You're planting the idea that she exists in your inner world, that your connection goes beyond the surface, that even when you weren't consciously thinking of her, she was still there too. A woman. That feels meaningful because it isn't forced. It's not a pickup line. It feels organic because it is. A dream is something your mind created on its own. That alone makes it powerful. Deeper still, this taps into a core aspect of female psychology, mystery, intrigue, emotional significance. A woman wants to feel special, not in a generic "you're beautiful" way, but in a unique, unspoken, almost magical way. Saying, I had a dream about you, creates that. There's no pressure, no expectations, just the suggestion that maybe there's something more going on between you. Now, let's connect this to Stoicism. A Stoic man doesn't chase attention. He doesn't over-explain. He allows curiosity to work in his favor. He understands that real connection doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from inviting emotion, not forcing it. He lets subtle, natural moments build attraction over time. So, ask yourself, are you trying to impress? Or are you creating depth? Master this simple move and you'll find yourself living rent-free in her mind. Not because of what you said, but because of what she felt when you said it. Next time you're with a woman, remember this. Subtlety wins. Don't force the moment. Don't overuse the dream trick. But when the timing is right, watch how her body language shifts. How she leans in. Not just physically, but emotionally. She'll start seeing you differently. And that changes everything. Secret 7. How a well-groomed beard triggers primal attraction. You might think facial hair is just a style choice, but science and psychology say otherwise. A well-groomed beard does more than change how you look. It alters how women perceive you on a deep subconscious level. Multiple studies show women often associate bearded men with 3 primal qualities: strength, maturity, and protection. These aren't just preferences, they're primal attraction. Triggers, hardwired instincts that date back thousands of years.